All right, Don.
Okay, planning board is now in session. It's Monday, April 25th, 7 p.m. pursuant to Chapter 20 of the Acts of 2021, an act relative to extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed into law on June 16th, 2021. This meeting will be conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance by members of the public will be permitted. People who wish to watch or participate in the meeting may do so by finding the meeting at www.southboroughtown.com/remote meetings. First item on the agenda is a discussion item, the master plan committee update. Mrs. Luttrell.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The master plan committee was scheduled to meet last Wednesday, and we were one short of a quorum. So we couldn't meet. We're meeting 7:30 Wednesday morning, and we're still looking at having a final draft for town meeting. I've read the draft that we have, and it's really very exciting, very readable. Good information there. So we hope to have a final draft for annual town meeting and let that socialize for a bit, and then have a joint planning board, select board meeting at the beginning of June.
Sounds great. Anything else? Any questions, comments?
Great job, Mimi.
And then when would it go to print?
After it's accepted by the planning board.
Which would be after that joint meeting?
Yeah.
Any other questions or comments? We have a 7:05 public hearing. I have 7:03. We can do the minutes.
Make a motion, we accept the meeting minutes from April 11th, 2022 as written.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes. Nice job, Kate.
Very good. Thanks, Kate. I'll read the public hearing notice. I'm sorry, I'll read the agenda notice. It's a continued public hearing. 325 Turnpike Road, Ken's Foods expansion, major site plan approval. This is continued from September 27th, 2021, October 18th, November 15th, December 13th, January 10th, January 24th, February 7th, February 28th, March 14th, and April 11th. I believe in the few short years that I've been on the planning board, I have never seen a site plan public hearing continued so many times. And I would advise future planning boards to perhaps take a different route, which would be to have the proponent withdraw without prejudice and come back when they're ready. We also have the same public hearing for Ken's Foods special permit for lower impact development, continued from those same dates. So let's ask Colleen for an update on what's happened since April 11th, and also what we expect to have happen tonight during tonight's continued public hearing. Is that okay with you, Colleen?
Sure.
This afternoon, you and I went over some of the emails. You don't have to go into detail because I see Mr. Pizzoni is here. So if you just tell the public and the board what we've received so far, and then we'll get into more detail with the proponent.
The last submittal from them was number 3, and it is at Fuss and O'Neill, but we have not gotten any comments back. The proponent did decide that he was going to come and talk to the board tonight.
Very good. Who's here for for Ken's Foods? Bill? You want to go first?
Yeah, I'm here, and I didn't quite hear what was said at the last comment. We had submitted responses, as I understand it, and I know that Scott Doty's on the line. So if we could let him in as well as panelists, we could address this better. I guess we had submitted a lot of responses, and they had gone back to Fuss and O'Neill, and we were waiting back on them for some further response, if any.
Two
Scott,
things, Bill. Two things. Your audio is all chopped up. So whatever you were doing, don't do it, or make some revisions so that we can hear you clearly. And the second thing that I would respectfully advise is to not in any way, shape, or form lean on saying that the planning board is holding up anything.
I wasn't saying you were holding it up, Don. I was saying I thought we were waiting for any further comments, if there were any, from Fuss and O'Neill, based on the last set of responses that were submitted to Karina and to Fuss and O'Neill. If that's inaccurate, I'd let's start.
No, it's accurate, but usually that's the lead in to the next part, which is to blame the planning board for delaying things.
Oh, no,
And
no.
I appreciate you understanding and not going down that path at this point, this late point in this process.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we think we're pretty close to the final resolution on the issues, if any, with Fuss and O'Neill, and I'll let Scott Doty speak to that. You know, I think we should look at that if the board suggests is in agreement with it. Go through those items. If they had any issues with what was responded, how we responded back to Fuss and O'Neill, let us know as well now, so they can be addressed before the next meeting. And then at the end, I can talk with you about the progress we're making with the Board of Health based on emails I forwarded this afternoon to you after their meeting this morning with you know, the way to approach this and the sound issues that are out there.
You're on.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, board. Good to see you again tonight. As Bill had pointed out, my name is Scott Doty. I'm with John Crow Associates with Civil Engineers, Landscape Architects for the project. As Bill started to point out, that it looks like we're on the home stretch with Fuss and O'Neill comments. The last set of comments were close to wrap-up comments. There were a few minor things and some explanations that were asked for by Fuss and O'Neill, which we believe we've addressed, and we're looking forward to hearing back from them. They have had that information, the same information that was provided through the planning board submittal. It's the same information we had provided them through the Conservation Commission submittal about a month or so ago. And so we expect that if there's anything to be very minor and as they indicated in their comments, that for the most part, what was left is issues of waivers and other issues that are discretionary for the board. If anybody would like to go through any of the specifics of the Fuss and O'Neill comments, I'd be happy to do that. I don't want to take any of your time that's unnecessary. With that, I'd like to sort of go ahead and talk about and inform the board that we're ready to make the repairs, those drainage repairs, that the items that were constructed incorrectly from the original submittal for the warehouse renovation. That those designs have been again reviewed by Fuss and O'Neill without any comments related to them in terms of form and function. So we're hoping we'd like to move ahead with those as soon as possible so that we can get those wrapped up and as-built certified as such, so that that the new work can proceed accordingly and in correct order with those repairs. If anybody would like to go over those repairs, I could do that again, but I can share my screen, the information that's been submitted. I think I'll do that just because it's been a while since we've been, though we can continue to hear, it's been a while since we've been in front of the board. It might be helpful. I don't know, Colleen, can you allow me to do that? Is that appropriate?
Yep.
I think what we'd like to do, based on my last discussion with the town planner, is to have you say what you said tonight relative to the status of these things. But
Okay.
really not get into those details until we get
Okay.
our report back from Fuss and O'Neill, and maybe have this whole thing come together at our next meeting.
All right. That's understood. So to summarize that for the board is that there's 2 new control structures that need to be built and also a few manhole structures to address a problem with construction of one of the pipes where it raised up to a crest. It should have gone under a gas line instead of over it to make the systems work properly and at 100%. So we'd like to get those things going. So perhaps at our upcoming meeting, we can say we can get a go ahead on that. We're asking the same question of the Conservation Commission this Thursday night. Along with those drainage repairs, we've proposed for the board's consideration, I don't know if it's been distributed to the board yet, a condition that calls for that work to be done with an as-built and certification by our engineer. I would imagine there'll also be some review by, talked to Karina the other day, that possibly some review by Fuss and O'Neill during that construction, and then have that all certified before we start construction on any of the new drainage system for the new project. I think that's an appropriate suggestion on our part. I think that's probably what we would hear from all of you also, anyway. Also, we have presented suggested conditions for the new permits that relate to the plantings that need to be repaired from the prior project. Most of those, of course, are related to Conservation Commission conditions from their orders, the previous orders. And so those have been redesigned and have been submitted. In addition to those, there are some new plantings that the board has not seen before related to mitigation for wetland area impacts that I could also show tonight, unless there's any objection, Mr. Chairman, show you the nature of those in general very briefly, of where they are and what they're all about. They have to do with to describe them, they have to do with plantings of wetland-related plantings along the immediate edge of wetlands and buffer zones. Would you like me to show that, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, but before we move on to that, I'd like to just say that your previous comments relative to the revisions to the drainage structures and your comments relative to the handling of the as-built moving forward is inconsistent with my understanding of and my last recent conversations with the town planner. So the fact that I'm not, or I'll open it up to the board if they wish, are not disagreeing with you at this point, doesn't, please don't consider that as us agreeing with your
Yes.
position relative to the revisions to the drainage structures and the handling of moving forward with the as-builts. So if you'd like to, does anyone from the board want to comment on those two items? So let's move on to the what you wanted to show us with the plantings.
Yeah. If I may, Mr. Chairman, I don't quite understand your point. I do understand your point about me stating what I did about the proposed conditions. Not necessarily, I'm not presuming board's decision, but I don't 100% understand what you were stating. I don't know if you could explain that a little bit more, if you could. Thank you.
It's just not what you were saying. And I think you were saying those as suggestions, although your comments relative to the drainage structures, I think you closed that by saying that you felt that those were going to be okay, or that they are okay. And my last discussion relative to those was that they're not okay. But things may have changed since the last time I spoke
Okay.
to the town planner. So I don't want
All
to disagree with you, but I want it on the record that by us saying nothing would imply that we agree with you. And at this point, my last discussions with the town planner relative to those drainage revisions and the as-built is a little bit different, or a lot different, not quite sure of the details, but is not the same as what you just said. And that's okay. We can get it cleared up.
Right.
But I just wanted to have it on the record.
It might be a timing issue. Yeah. Okay.
Yep. Okay.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thanks for that. Bill, I'm sorry, Bill, you want to say something?
I just wanted to make sure I understand. John, you believe that there's been a crossing of plans and discussions here, I guess. So you don't want us to think that you're agreeing that what we just said is accurate, because you need to check it with the planner. But I'm wondering, is the concept that if we have addressed those issues, that it gets constructed and the as-built built before we move forward with the other construction? I'm just trying to get timing sequence so that when we lay this out and start doing work, we know what we have to address first. Did that make sense?
Yeah, but I don't think I can comment on that because, again, my discussions with the town planner relative to this are at least a week or 10 days old. But and I'm not aware of anything that's changed that. So I said what I said, and you guys said what you said. I just wanted to make sure that you know that it's my opinion that we're not at this time agreeing to those two areas of moving forward.
Got it.
But Colleen, is Karina coming back tomorrow? You're mute.
She may be back tomorrow.
Yeah, well, so later in the week, she and I will catch up. We'll go over what we talked about tonight, and she'll give me her version of where we are with all of that. Hopefully it's keeping the thing moving forward. On to the plantings.
Thank you. All right, grab the share screen. Make sure I select the right screen. There we go. I think you see a plan now, right? I need to go to these new plantings. Well, while I'm on this plan, I guess, to give you an orientation of where we are, specifically, we're talking about new plantings in this darker green strip that you may see. I don't know if you can see my cursor or not. I'm going to move this block here of, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, does someone have a question? No, I guess not. So This area here in light green here is the area where we're relocating the wildflowers with the open space, the Preservation Commission. But between it and the wetlands is this darker green strip, which will be buffer zone enhancement plantings associated. It's a element that's we're doing with the Conservation Commission. And down in this southeast corner, closer to Route 9, is an area of plantings that is slated as riverfront area replication to compensate for some of the loss of the or the construction within portions of that riverfront area. I'm going to go to a larger detail, if I may. This is that strip of planting between the wildflower area and the wetlands, mostly consisting of woody shrubs and wetland grasses. And going south towards Route 9 is the planting for the riverfront area replication in this area here, which will have a grass meadow area close to the brook, and then surrounded between it and the lawn area, the south lawn area, would be trees and woody shrubs with some mixture of grass plantings in it as replication. So those are in addition to the other areas that are part of the planting that the board has seen before and we've just discussed before on prior hearings. If there's any questions on that at all, I'd be happy to answer them.
Open it up to the board. Mr. Mills, any questions, comments?
No questions at this time.
Mr. Stein?
I look forward to receiving the Fuss and O'Neill report, and I'm sure I will have questions and comments in subsequent meetings, subsequent hearings. Thank you.
Mrs. Luttrell?
So the plantings that we haven't talked about here, but the ones from the previous site plan that are in the northeast corner by the employee parking lot, those were not planted in compliance with the previous site plan. And I see there are some, you show that some are being transplanted, but not all of the plants that were required before are there.
Yeah, here we go. Where's the expand? Let me get this zoomed in a little bit. Those plantings are being supplemented and replaced by these new plantings. Some of these plants are bunched together, but they're better located in the field as you're doing the work. Some of these trees and shrubs that are shown here are going to replace some of the material that didn't live. And also there's some supplemental plantings in there also, but this is the new plan for that area.
And are those within the bioretention area there?
Yes, they are. They're within the bio. Yeah, they are.
So that, I think the Concom has jurisdiction over that, but I'm talking about the plants that were outside it, between the bioretention area and the parking lot.
Oh, those are, we're still, well, this whole area here, I guess maybe we better make sure we're talking about the same thing. This whole area is the bioretention area, all of that? Or are you thinking that the bioretention area is a smaller subset? But the plants that you're talking about in terms of relocation are the specific ones were down in the area where the driveway starts around the proposed addition. And let's see here, I got to call it the planting plan. Here we go. Yeah. Bear with me a second or two.
So you show replacements, but all the other plantings that were required in the previous plan are not there.
They're there plus more are there in the plan I was just showing previously. In order to, those were all Conservation Commission plantings in this area here. And the ones on the prior plan that I was showing you are in compensation and for catching up with that. In addition, there's additional plantings. The transplanted plantings I think you were talking about were these down in here in this area outside of the replication area. And then there was the.
And further to the north from there, they were on the previous plan, there were other plantings there that weren't planted and don't appear to be on this plan either.
They are. This is the area that's further north, and the plants are shown. The plants that are on the edges, the outer edges, are shown here, and some of them didn't survive and are going to be replaced by some of these plants that are in this area here. They're going to be planted out in that area in addition to where they're shown right here.
If I can jump in, Mimi, are you saying that you think there were some in that upper portion that weren't planted under the prior plan? Because we can cross-reference that to make sure that they're shown on this plan as either being planted or they're in existence. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that I know they weren't planted because I was out there.
There were some that died and must have been removed, and also there's some that aren't doing very well in that area.
Yeah, I saw that too.
Yeah, and these
So
plants.
Scott, you should cross-reference the old plan, approved plan, and this plan to make sure that we infill all of those.
Yeah,
point.
we'll show the inventory. I think that would be helpful for everybody to show the inventory of what's being replaced and what's not, and then what additional plantings are. Okay. And then this is that other area, maybe over at the north side by the driveway, the wetland replication area here, which is really a total redo. Really, what happens, the soils there were just not good enough. The soil needs to be replaced really in this area. That's where the old truck turnaround is, up by the north side there, the driveway.
Oh, okay.
All right. Yeah, we'll get that. We'll address that in the specific inventory. I think it'd be helpful that our Goddard does that for us also. And we'll provide that to you. The one last thing I had, Mr. Chairman, before I can come back to this if somebody wants to, but I'll stop sharing the plan now of my screen.
Mrs. Houlihan.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I know, Mr. Morris, are you specific to the plantings or are you opening it up for anything?
Anything.
I think I would like to hear what happened on Thursday last week with the Board of Health. And I know Mr. Pizzoni said he would do that, as well as I saw that Heather is up here from the Board of Health. And I also just wanted to talk about our request regarding zoning for enclosed truck bays.
I just wanted to make sure Scott finished what he was doing, and then I will lead into that.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just had one item, Mr. Chairman and board, if you like, would maybe just to briefly go through the waiver requests that are there outstanding now. And that's what I thought I would do before Bill addressed some of the questions that Ms. Houlihan has raised.
Unless the board disagrees with me, I think it's until we get that Fuss and O'Neill report, get the whole package. That's the point where we start talking about the waivers or
All right,
any
well,
of the
thank you.
details.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Bill, please.
Sure. Okay, so we met with the Board of Health out on site with, I think it was Ms. Scott and Chelsea Wolanowski and Heather, and walked the site, listened to what was going on outside, actually went inside the building as well, walked around the total building to determine where, if you might hear sound even on the perimeter of the site. And it was determined that the sound that we believe the neighbors were hearing and anybody else that has heard it, that it is a product of the refrigeration units that are outside on the lot and not necessarily all against, some of them are against the bays closest to Route 9 because that's where the refrigeration product gets loaded into it. And all that is regulated by federal law and federal transportation law. And it was determined that we need to focus on how to possibly address that if that is what's causing all of these issues. Board of Health reported out this morning at their own board and talked about and agreed that the noise and vibration that they thought was the issue was just jurisdictional to them, that it's something that they need to be reviewing. And based upon several members and Heather and with the Ken's representatives, the Board of Health wants to work with Ken's. Ken's is willing to work with the Board of Health and the abutters to take the steps required to address any noise issues reasonably associated with the Ken's facility that may violate regulatory standards and constitute public health and safety issues. We intend on exploring with the experts and an engineer because logistics might come into play on the site. One thing that we did determine, and it was determined by the Board of Health members that were there and the Board of Health this morning and Heather, that the noise being complained of today by the abutters is not typical loading dock noise. It's not activity at the rear end of the truck. It's the refrigeration unit that's required by federal regulation at the front end of the truck and in the parking lot that's creating this noise or the vibration that people are hearing. And that speaks to the fact that putting an extension on that building isn't going to work to cover the backside of those container trucks when they pull up. And it's also going to interfere with the plan that this board, other than you, Marnie, approved the original plan. They were on the board that approved the original plan for the circulation and the site activity that was going to go on there. So we're looking into and have spoke with our expert and with the Board of Health about this, that we may have to utilize logistics. We may have to utilize certain parking area for where those refrigerated trucks are parked, for long periods of time. Because it's only when there's a large amount of them accumulated there that you can hear it off-site. And our expert, when we talked to them, we said, well, what about a sound wall on the far property line there? And he said, because of the distance away from where the loading docks are, where the trucks are being loaded and where they're stacked there, the sound would be, it goes up, it goes out and up. So a sound wall at that location would have to be probably 50 feet high, all right, which is unrealistic. So we're talking and we're looking at potential logistics changes, if possible, on site, where we can put a sound wall closer to where those mechanical units are, refrigeration units on those trucks, so it will contain it in that area. it won't have the opportunity to, raise in its height and go up the hill to hit Flag Road. So these are things that we're looking at, but it's going to take, quite a bit of time, some definitive discussions with the Board of Health, with our experts, bringing them into it to look at it and see actually what the best result is. And Ken's is, as I said from the beginning, Ken's is committed to address this issue if it was their issue. It appears now that it may be, partly their issue that they're hearing. Unfortunately, it is regulated by federal law. So, we could get into a battle over it, but Ken's wants to they want to try to resolve the issue. So it's their intent to work with the Board of Health, and the Board of Health has said that they're willing to work with Ken's and work with the abutters to try to find a reasonable resolution to this so that it addresses the true issue, not just build something off the backside of that wall. It isn't going to fix the issue because it's not. And not build something off the end of that side of the building that's going to be financially a waste of money because it's not going to do anything. I sent an email today, and the other thing was the intent is for the Board of Health and us to keep in contact with the building inspector and the planning board while this process is being worked out to determine what the remedy has to be. And I can tell you, Ken's committed to the remedy. We don't think it should hold up the approval of this plan because it's construction on the other end, but we could have some sort of contingency or condition that, let's say, we have to, the Board of Health either has to report to you within 6 months before next winter, because it's in the winter when it happens that people can hear this noise. I think everybody's agreed that they don't hear it during the summer and into the fall. It's only when the leaves fall. And we address those issues between now and then, and you either get a letter from the Board of Health saying we've addressed it, or if we have to, we may have to come back to you because we may have to change site logistics and build a wall in the middle of that parking lot, which brings in a lot of scrutiny that we're going to have to look at. As you know, in that parking area, there's a system for the water recharge and everything. We think there's an area where we might be able to put it, and like I said, it says again, it's committed to working towards that. And we think we have some conditions.
Bill, we're losing your audio. We're losing it. It's all chopped up. And unless you're going to make another point, unless you have more to say that you haven't covered, I'll open it back up to.
I do, Don. I think we can craft an agreement or a condition that, we need to get back to you, prove that this was done, before next winter, when it could become an issue again. That being said, if we come up with a plan, and I'm not saying it's a planning board that's had all the delays here, it's been a combination of a lot of things. If we submit a set of plans to you in, let's say, September for approval, if they don't get approved until December, it's going to be an issue. So we will make sure that our plans are ready when we submit them, if we have to submit them. I think we may have to, though, because I don't think a sound wall on the edge is going to work, and any type of abutment off the side of the building flies in the face of the prior approval, which Ken's relied upon and spent $30 million to build out that facility. So that being said, the only other point I want to make out is that we can argue all day long as to whether or not there was a de facto approval of the way it was built last time, or we can focus on finding a real resolution to the issue that works both for the abutters and for Ken's and isn't a financial waste of money. So I'll get off my soapbox there. And Heather, I see it is up if she wants to add anything to the meeting, but I confirmed basically what I said to you in an email to Karina this morning. So I don't know if you've opened it up. I didn't realize she was away, which reiterates the 5 points that the Board of Health addressed and talked about at their meeting this morning and agreed with. So with that, Don, I will get off my soapbox, and I hope you were able to understand me and my sound system wasn't mutilating it.
Thank you. Before I go to Heather, I'd like to go back to Mrs. Houlihan. Marnie, will you go ahead?
Yep, I'm good.
Heather, did you want to speak?
Just to, agree with comments and just add some comments. So the current noise complaints from the abutters Flag Road, the abutters complaint this started in 2019. I know that the other, I'm not going to go into the prior, I think it was 2017 approval. But there is obviously 24/7 operation and nighttime operation. I do have some concern about potentially more refrigerator trucks. I think in our work, I agree that this is likely from the trailer units that have an refrigeration unit that is combining with to make the low frequency noise when there's a lot of trucks operating. And I agree, some are in the parking lot, some are on the loading bays, and this is the complaint is that low frequency vibrational noise. So the enclosures would not take care of those in the parking lot. The enclosures to take care of the ones at the loading bay would kind of have to be completely enclosed, I think. So I do have some concern that there may be more truck traffic with the expansion. There is going to be less of the traffic between Marlborough and between Southborough for moving Ken's supplies, but my understanding those are not refrigerated trucks. And if we're narrowing in with potentially the refrigerated trucks and the cooling units on them, I do think that probably with more space here in Southborough, we will be seeing potentially more orders. And if an order has combined a product that's not heat sensitive and a refrigerated product, they use the refrigerated truck. So a number of orders do use the refrigerated trucks if it's a combined order. So I did have some concern that way. I do agree that, like I said, we're looking and with Ken's and trying to look for a resolution for this low vibrational noise that is impacting folks' health abutters, especially at night. I do think that potentially in the meantime to look at like the representative from Ken's was saying with some of the logistics, maybe not having sort of 12 refrigerated trucks all going at the same time or trying to have them pre-cool, elsewhere. And so not having so many active refrigeration units running at the same time. And that there, I'm not a sound expert, but yes, we will want to look. And then I think that was a good suggestion to have sort of a report back within 6 months to really make sure that we have some plans that are viable for the abutters.
If I could, Mr. Norris, I would just point out that I know Jim Bourne, who spoke previously before this board and spoke again this morning to the Board of Health, because one of the board members did ask that question. There is, it's a net on with the expansion of the trucks, because you don't have to bring them as often. You can bring them during the day, and the refrigeration units, we agreed, are all stacked at the far right-hand side closest to Route 9, and that's where we're stacking. If we put a wall up, we would be stacking all our refrigerated trucks. I'm not sure we can pre-cool them someplace else to bring them there to do this because I just don't think the logistics are there. But I think the net effect, as Jim has said before, oh, he's on here now. Yeah, and I'll let him explain it then because I'll butcher it. Jim, I'll let you explain it.
Sure. Today, we're bringing all that product from Marlborough into Southborough. and then shipping it. We're storing it in Marlborough and just bringing it as needed. What we'll do is, as we produce it, it won't have an interim step in Marlborough to just come directly to Southborough. So it won't add any activity as far as refrigeration units. The product already goes out of Southborough eventually.
I would just comment on that based on previous site plans that we've been involved in. And that is, you don't want to limit yourself to a particular specific operation or quantity or type. So we say, okay, there's going to be one refrigerated truck there a month. That's not worth taking care of. It's not a big deal. And then that creeps to 2 a month, and then 10 a month, and then 2 an hour. And if that, nobody's going to police that. The neighbors are going to be upset. You don't want to limit yourself. If we're going to protect ourselves from noise, then we protect ourselves from noise 24/7, and the type of noise also. You can do it as you want, but I think the planning board is going to be reluctant to have conditions relative to how the site is used that's based on a quantity, a volume, a time of day, time of month, so on. We want to be able to have a site plan where everybody knows what can happen 24/7. You see this happen all the time where site plans the proponent paints a rosy picture of how limited the operation is going to be. And within a few years, it's a big operation and nobody's there to police it. Just my suggestion. You can do it as you want. We'll see how the board handles it.
Yeah, Don, there are, I think there are 10 bay doors on the far right side that are tied to the refrigeration units. And the parking would be in front of those. Now, that doesn't mean the wall is just going to be in front of those 10. It's going to run down further and on both sides to make sure it captures all of it. I understand your concern, but right now there's only so many refrigerated units that can be on the site because of the ability to load them. And that will remain consistent because we're not expanding refrigerated doors.
Not now, you're not. Open it up to the board. Open it up to the board. Any questions or comments?
If I could, Mr. Chairman, if you go to Ken's and go inside internally, you'll see they can't expand inside any more refrigeration than they have because they've got a huge robotic system throughout the whole facility.
Things change. Thank you. Mr. Mills.
I was just wondering, Mr. Chairman, if any of the neighbors agree with that assessment about the refrigeration units on the truck, or was this just the health department and Ken's who met to determine that? And if there's any feedback from the neighbors on the determination.
I believe Jim Bourne worked hand in hand with one of the abutters running tests of running the refrigeration units at night and shutting them down and then just moving trucks to see what noise they were hearing. And I believe that neighbor and abutter confirmed that it was basically the refrigeration.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Any
we
other
have,
questions?
I
Go ahead,
believe
Heather.
at least one or two that they've worked with is an agreement that it's the refrigerated units on those trailers.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the planning board, questions or comments at this time? Go ahead, Mrs. Luttrell.
To pick up on what Mr. Bourne had just said about the text exchange with one of the neighbors. So you were able to increase and decrease the amount of noise. So what were you doing?
We shut all the trucks down. We turned them all on. We communicated in between each time we had made some adjustments. So we simulated some operations.
Okay, so when the noise level was down, you shut the trucks off? Or were there a certain number of trucks that were on that was still at a lower?
We did
level?
all different amounts. We went from 20 to 12 to 6 to 2 to 0. We just simulated all different scenarios. And I got their feedback, and that's what we based some of our ideas on.
So there were 20 trucks running in the parking lot?
Yep. We simulated it. We turned a whole bunch on that usually wouldn't be on.
Okay.
And when you say trucks, just to be clear, refrigeration units. So we had empty trailers that didn't have trucks attached to them that we turned the units on and off.
Okay. So I'm wondering why not just do whatever it was that you did that wasn't at a high noise level that was acceptable to the neighbors on a long-term basis?
As Bill mentioned, we wouldn't be able to accommodate the FSMA requirements for loading food product.
Okay. All right. In the public health issue aside, the zoning code requires enclosed bays for operations that are frequently operating at night. So that has nothing to do with public health. That's zoning code, and that's under the jurisdiction of the planning board.
Right, and I did send an email today where it's our position, as it has been in the beginning, and you can talk with your counsel again, that there was a de facto approval of this back when you guys, 4 of you that are sitting on this board, including you, Ms. Luttrell, that approved the original site plan. And we're not trying to skirt anything, and we've spent $30 million here. We're trying to address an issue that's cropped up after that approval. Now, you can grant a waiver to that. Our position is you granted it because in your own approval, you cited that we complied with zoning, otherwise, other than as noted therein, and you granted waivers. Now, it was based on, I'm sure, because you hadn't heard from any of the neighbors on that side of the property. Nobody heard any of the noise. Nobody realized that this refrigeration was going to be an issue. So you didn't require us to have to build them at that time. And, you know, I mean, we can argue that and fight it all we want, but it's not going to help Ken's and it's not going to help the abutters in the interim while we fight that out. We should probably be focusing on a resolution to this and moving it forward, because it's not the activity at those loading bays that's causing the problem. And you guys made a decision previously based on that, I think, that nobody was going to hear it, so you didn't have to worry about it. You didn't require anything. Plus, logistically, you wouldn't have been able to put them all underneath the facility. You know, build it out over it. You take away 3 lanes, you know, whole lane of traffic and a couple of other lanes. It wouldn't have worked logistically. So you have the power to move forward with this and or grant a waiver now, or grant a waiver after the wall is up, or however we resolve it. And, you know, I don't grant the waiver and just move forward and approve the plan.
Okay. I disagree, as did town council, with the de facto waiver, but I'll move on from that right now. The ZBA had recommended a visual improvements on the east side of the building, plantings to buffer the new addition from, or to screen the new addition from the abutters over on that corner, since that line of trees is being removed. Are there any plans for anything there?
I'd have to go back and look at their decision. I'm sorry, I'm at a loss right now.
It wasn't in their decision. They had sent a letter to the planning board after they approved the special permit.
Oh, I don't know if I've seen that. If I could see that, if I could be provided that, I'd take a look at it. But I don't think they required it in the decision because all we were doing was expanding the wall out, and people are going to be visually looking at the same thing they're looking at now, as far as the side of the building.
Well, they're
And-
looking at trees now, and those trees are going to be a building.
Who's
There's a whole
looking at the
line,
trees?
there's a whole line of trees there.
There's a whole line of trees that run west to east, I believe, or east to west. I don't think they run north to south, which would block that side. They run in a line by the parking lot, east to west, I mean, west to east.
Right.
And on that side, we planted trees along the back perimeter on the north side for the direct abutter on Deerfoot right there. Other than that, Deerfoot Road is all treed, and that property is owned by Ken's, and there aren't any housing on that section of it by Ken's, I don't think. So I'm not sure who the planning, I guess I'm at a loss because I didn't know the zoning board had sent a letter like that. So I'd like to see it, but it wasn't in their approval. I don't know why we would plant more trees there. I don't know if Ken's has an issue with it. I know we just went through the planting plan for that whole side to make sure drainage and everything and the wetlands and the environment are protected. I mean, if we need a few more trees in there, we probably could coordinate it, but I don't know if, Scott, are there trees allocated for that area right now?
There are small trees allocated within the area, to be added to the bioretention area. But the thought that occurred to me was the special permit that the ZBA, was it the original special permit, Ms. Luttrell, or was it very recently that they sent that letter? Because I remember there was back in I wasn't involved in the project, but back in the 2015 or 2014 special permit, there might have been planting associated with that.
They sent a letter, was dated June 8th,
Okay. of this year.
2021.
2021, okay. I just wanted to make sure that was this more recent special permit. But back to Bill's question, that there are some trees being added in that bioretention area.
Okay.
They're going in as younger. They're going in as younger plants, but well, this is very helpful. Did you put this up, Colleen?
I did put it up.
Yeah. The trees that are being removed, there's a row of abrevieties there. You probably know where they are, Colleen. They're right to the south side of the northeast parking area. That's what's being, that line right there. Those are being displaced by the addition. But I don't think that those would offer, even if they were saved, would offer, make any change in what can be seen or what can't be seen from the neighbors. It's interesting.
But please note that is an outdated picture because
Yeah.
there aren't any trailers in the back there.
That's-
Or loading docks.
That's right.
That was going to be my
yeah, this
next
is-
question.
Yeah, this is well before, as you can see, there's no, where those trailers are closest to you when you're looking at now is where the bioretention area is. By the way. So.
And so one last thing, there's still non-natives in cultivars in the planting list. So are those arborvitaes the ones that are being transplanted into the parking lot?
They're the ones that are being transplanted we're relocating them to that island that's south
Oh, okay.
of the truck depot area.
Oh, all right. So those are the,
Yeah,
those are
that's
the
what we-
arborvitaes in the
That's where we
planting
thought they
list.
could be most helpful.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know how you got a hold of this picture, Colleen, but it was old.
It's Google Earth.
Yeah.
It's an older picture. I'm trying to find the date.
I think that's usually up in the upper left where you can change the date.
Were you all set, Mrs. Luttrell?
Oh, one more. What are the lid techniques that are being integrated into the design?
Well, we're maintaining the country drainage that that's always been out there. We've also integrated the level spreader that will allow roof drainage, which is clean, to then be transmitted to a country drainage situation in the south lawn. That's about 70% of the new roof area. And though it wasn't proposed as such, it's really a Conservation Commission proposal for these additional plantings that we went over. Those are also elements that will help the sustainability of the site in terms of allowing for more nutrient and runoff uptake from the stormwater and the groundwater within the site, all those areas that are more adjacent. So basically what we're doing is we're enlarging the natural area, reducing the manicured lawn area by doing that.
Thank you.
Anyone from the public?
Frederica?
Oh, Freddie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Freddie Gillespie, Chair of the Open Space Preservation Commission. Hi, Scott, Will, Planning Board
Hi, Fred.
members. Both Bill and Scott have attended prior Open Space Commission meetings, but we haven't reviewed this newest plan yet. So we will want to try to set up a meeting as soon as possible to go over the planting list. We're just commenting on the native planting and the meadow that was replicating the one that didn't happen as required from the last modification. It somehow wasn't established properly. So we have great concerns on making sure that this one gets planted correctly. And we've had some conversation with Scott, and I think Bill was there as well. So we want to continue those conversations. I'll try to get a meeting set up and let you know. Some of the plantings that you're doing for the Concom are in line with what we had been recommending, increasing the number of natives. If there's any cultivars are not native to New England, we would comment on those. But additionally, we are adding into the buffer zone next to the wildflower meadow. There's a lot of invasives in there. Are you going to be taking those out when you're putting in the natives? The additional plantings, will you be removing the invasives? No sense putting them in if you're just going to be overtaken by invasives.
That's right. That area is going to be totally changed. Yeah, we're going to.
Okay.
Yeah. Mhm.
So I just wanted to let the planning board know that the Open Space Commission will be providing more feedback, particularly when it comes to the planting of the meadow, which it's not as easy as throwing down some seeds. There's a process, and we've had some preliminary discussions. And I want to take your time now until we meet to go over this plan, and maybe Scott or Bill will come to that meeting as well, or we can send you our letters. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Kevin Barrington?
Hi, this is Kevin Farrington, 58 Flag Road. Just a couple comments on the 2017 decision and whether that implied that they were conforming to zoning codes. I went back and looked at all the recordings of that meeting, and the subject of nighttime operations never came up. So it's not surprising that the planning board approved it back then. Now, with evidence of substantial nighttime operations, I think that kicks in the enclosed bays thing. I'm pretty sure the 2017 approval actually requires Ken's to conform to all planning or all zoning requirements, not that they do conform to all zoning requirements. So it's not that you were stating that they conformed, it's that you were stating that they needed to conform. As far as the noise, we still hear it. We were able to interact with Jim Bourne. It went away for about 5 minutes. And, within 15 minutes, it was back to the same loudness as it always was and hasn't changed since. So just wanted to let you know that. Thank you. Thanks for all your efforts.
Thank you.
Yeah, if I could just comment.
Bill, we got to keep moving. We got a big agenda tonight. We've
Just
covered
had
the
one
noise. If there's anyone else that hasn't spoken, we really have to move on. We have several other public hearings. Covered a lot of ground here tonight. And I think we've set the table for hopefully some good action between now and our next meeting and at our next meeting. Anything else from anyone other than Mr. Pizzoni? I wouldn't say that if I didn't know you for so long.
I know. I'm gonna miss you.
Mr. Mills, we need to, the approval period goes to May 27th, so we're okay. Our next meeting is May 9th for the continuation of hearings. So this would be the point in time where we would entertain a motion to continue these hearings.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we continue the public hearing for 325 Turnpike Road, Ken's Food Expansion Major Site Plan Approval, and also for 325 Turnpike Road, Ken's Food Expansion Special Permit for LID to May 9th, 2022 at 7:05 p.m.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Very good. Thank you. We'll see you on the 9th.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing. 200 Turnpike Road, snow removal / landscaping contractor facility, and 200 Turnpike Road, snow removal landscaping contractor facility, special permit for lower impact development. These hearings are continued from November 15th, January 10th, January 24th, February 7th, February 28th, March 14th, and April 11th. We'll ask Colleen to give us an update on what's happened since April 11th, and also what we're expected to accomplish tonight, if anything.
So 200 Turnpike is pretty much in the same boat. They have a submission number 3 and waiting for Fuss and O'Neill to answer. I guess a bunch of them have been on vacation. They did request a continuation to the next available meeting. And that's it.
There was also, in the time between now and the previous hearing, was there a letter received from, was it DCR?
Yes, there was a letter. You're right.
Okay, that's on the Dropbox. That's on the web. So we just wanted to let the public know that there has been some progress made relative to the state. So is there anyone here from 200 Turnpike Road? I think that's consistent with what was told to Colleen and the town planner, that just a request to open the hearing, give an update, and then continue the hearing to our next meeting. I'll open it up to the board, and then we'll entertain. We can't discuss the merits of the project. Anybody have any questions or comments before we entertain a motion to continue the hearings?
Mr. Chairman, the only thing, I don't know if Colleen, if you know this or if it's being tracked, I'd just be curious for these two, for the Kens and for this one, how many of the public hearings we didn't do anything but get an update and no one attended. It'd just be nice to know that maybe at our next meeting.
It's interesting you asked that, because we did sort of talk about that, Karina and I believe it was the last time you saw them for input was about one of the meetings in December.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Mills.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we continue the public hearing for 200 Turnpike Road, snow removal, landscaping, contractor facility, major site plan approval, and also for 200 Turnpike Road, snow removal, landscaping, contractor facility, special permit for LID to May 9th, 2022 at 7:10 PM.
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Very good. We hope to see them on the May 9th. Next item on the agenda is a continued public hearings for 154, 156 Northborough Road. It's a modification to a major site plan approval. It's one hearing. This is continued from March 14th and April 11th. We'll ask Colleen to give us an update on things that may have happened between our last planning board public hearing and now.
Let's see, so they've requested, Karina actually requested the stormwater calcs for the as-built that were provided by Peter Bemis. They are also looking for, we're asking for a technical assistance. Is that what it is, a TA? I'm new to that term, for a review for the as-built. And they did not get any information back from the lawyer with the documents on the protocol and the condo documents. And that's, I believe, all that there was.
And the proponent is, I'll ask if anyone from 154, 156 Northborough Road is here. I don't think we're expecting them. I think they indicated to the town planner that they just wanted to continue the hearing, anticipating some movement on those things that are out to attorneys or the engineers. Anyone from from Northborough Road? Any questions or comments from the board before we entertain the motion to continue this public hearing? Mr. Mills.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we continue the public hearing for 154, 156 Northborough Road, modification, major site plan approval to May 9th, 2022 at 7:15 PM.
Second,
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
And so as we began these hearings tonight and as we end on these site plan hearings, it's an example of an opportunity for the planning board to suggest to the proponent to withdraw without prejudice and get their documents and their submittals in more of a complete fashion before opening up or reopening the public hearing. Sometimes you open up the public hearing and things become known at that time that would cause these continuations, but the board should always be, and the proponent should always be mindful of not filling up planning board agendas and filling up their nights with continuations. And in this case, and in other cases, it fills our agenda at the same time that the proponent has a free night. Next item on the agenda is a proposed warrant article. It's a public hearing. It's continued. This proposed warrant article is to add a section to Chapter 153, trees, for a tree bylaw. This public hearing is continued from March 28th and April 11th. So, Colleen, did you have anything on this, or should we go straight to Mrs. Latrell?
This one would be, yep, Mrs. Luttrell, if you're on.
Can I share my fancy new PowerPoint?
Sure, let's see.
We have a new logo too. Hopefully we all like it.
I'm branded.
Oh, you're branding it. That's a good thing.
For the public, Mrs. Luttrell, and then for the next public hearing, myself prepared a little presentation on these articles. And they were in need of formatting and just a more professional approach. We asked Mrs. Houlihan, and she revised the slides, which we're going to see tonight. I hope.
Yes. There we go. Is everyone seeing what I'm seeing? Tree protection bylaw.
Number 27.
Yes.
So I thought I'd go through this and then take any comments. So aside from aesthetics, there are many reasons to protect public shade trees. They reduce flooding, erosion, clean the air, provide cooling, extend pavement life, provide habitat for wildlife, and improve mental health of people. And the protection of public shade trees is required by Mass General Law. Massachusetts was one of the earliest states to recognize the importance of public shade tree protection. Starting in 1896, when powers of tree warden were put to law, protections for public shade trees were laid out and hearings were required, just as they are today. And then in 1899, all cities and towns in Massachusetts were required to have tree wardens. Today, we have Chapter 87, which, like its predecessor, shows the powers of the tree warden, gives procedures for removing public shade trees, also details procedures for planting and penalties for violating provisions of the law. And additionally, Mass General Law, Chapter 40, Section 15C requires consolidated hearings with the planning board for trees on scenic roads, which adds additional transparency to the hearing process. And it also includes provisions for stone wall protection. In Southborough, starting decades back in the 70s, town meetings designated in 74 and 75 scenic roads. In 78, all non-numbered roads were designated as scenic roads. Then to further our belief that in the town's belief in the importance of public shades, tree protection, the town passed a tree bylaw, which memorialized our commitment to follow Mass General Law, Chapter 87, to protect public shade trees. And we also became a tree city. And now in 2022, we're being asked to formalize a process to protect public shade trees in line with Mass General Laws, Chapter 87. Why another tree bylaw? After all this time in Southborough, public shade tree protection isn't being consistently followed. This bylaw clarifies our obligations under Mass General Law, Chapter 87 and Chapter 40, Section 15C. It sets up a process to comply with those laws. And to compose this bylaw, we use the Mass guidelines on how to write tree bylaws and use the examples of several other towns who have bylaws that have passed Attorney General muster. This bylaw provides clarity of the town's responsibilities. It defines some terms that aren't specifically defined in the law, and it creates a process that's tailored to the town of Southborough, but is something that's been done in other towns. What it does not do is impede on personal property rights. This bylaw only deals with public shade trees, which are in the public right of way, which are public property. And it does not impede on the removal of trees that are an imminent hazard to person or property. And it doesn't create any new regulations. What's in the proposed bylaw is in Chapter 87, the premise of which has been in place since the 1800s. What is the public right of way? These trees we're talking about. Currently in our subdivision law, the standard layout for a residential road is approximately 50 feet. And 24 feet of that layout is paved. And what's left over is the public right of way. And that's where curbing is, sidewalks are, and the public shade trees that we've been talking about. And in Southborough, many of our older roads have varying layouts and varying pavement width. And then why protect the trees? Protect a tree within the drip line. The drip line protects the support roots which hold the tree up. So if those are destroyed, the tree will be unstable and fall over. And then it protects a portion of the feeder roots where the tree gets its nutrition and water from. So if those things are destroyed, then the tree will also be destroyed. Any questions?
I love the new layout.
Isn't that cool? Fan Dancy, huh?
Very nice, very easy on the eyes, flows well. Great job.
Were you controlling those movements on each slide, Mimi, or were you doing it, Marnie?
No, I was doing.
Okay.
I'll do yours, Don.
Oh, thank you.
And I have one question for the board. I've been getting a lot of questions about the no construction or excavation in the drip line of the tree. It seems to be causing a lot of angst. And I'm wondering what the board thinks of that, if that's if it's worth amending that portion out, going with the rest of the bylaw, or leaving that in.
I would ask, have you seen that in most, all, or very few of the other towns' tree policies, tree bylaws?
I've seen it in several other towns.
But it's absent or silent in others?
Yeah.
If
Some-
we're getting a pushback, the question on that, then the question might be, is the damaging of the roots causing most of the public trees to disappear, or is it the chainsaws? So if we're if by leaving that in, we're addressing a very small part of what we're concerned about, then we might consider taking it out.
I would think the chainsaws are more concerning. They have a more immediate result, that's for sure.
Yeah. Go ahead, Marty.
Yeah, I heard some of that discussion during the advisory meeting, and I think the specificity around construction that needed to be defined. And I think the challenge here is you can't really define it. They were saying the person that raised the issue was about construction could be me wanting to plant, plants. And I think what we're trying to say is that in Mass General Law, construction isn't defined. And so construction is something that would damage roots. And I think that is kind of, do you need to spell it out in a definition? And so my feeling is that you could leave it as is, and it's subject to the reader's interpretation. And construction typically means like significant equipment and digging. And so I don't necessarily agree on that side or the recommendation for specificity or definition. And I would just leave it the way that we have it.
And leave that section in that a permit's required for construction and excavation within the drip line of a public shade tree.
I think so.
Hey, Mimi,
Mm-hmm.
is there any differentiation between like a owner-occupant homeowner's residential construction versus a non-occupant, such as a landlord or a commercial property owner?
No.
I mean, that would be my thought on it, is we would we might be best served to exempt owner occupant projects on a residential basis.
Are you talking, Jesse, a weekend warrior or an owner occupier who contracted with a landscaper to put in a stone wall? Because I think
That's a good question.
I'm kind of with you, and if I wanted to put up a post and rail fence, that I had to dig a couple holes that was near a tree, but obviously they're only like 6 inches round, or use a post hole digger. I would think that, someone should be able to do that. Now, if you're hiring a landscaper to come in and dig up and put a foundation for a stone wall or something like that, that's going to do a huge rip and, dig up a lot of roots and like a trench right by the tree and cut off half the roots in the drip line, that would be a permit.
That's a good question. I think my concern is it could get complicated and murky. But I see your concern.
That kind of goes back to the art and the science of it. The science is what we're talking about. But if there are people that as this discussion has just gone in the last 3 or 4 minutes, it's inconclusive. And people are going to throw their hands up, I think, and say, I don't want to do this.
Well, that's a
Take
good
it out.
point, Mr. Morris. And that's why I was thinking a blanket exemption for owner occupant residential construction projects might be and I agree with the points made by Mr. Mills and Ms. Houlihan, but in the interest of getting the bylaw moved forward and ratified, it might make sense. Sometimes we have to, take a less than optimal course to get things done.
So I would suggest that if we were going to exempt homeowners, which most of the public shade trees on non-state highways are in front of homeowners' properties, that it's not even worth having that particular section in the bylaw. Because that's most of the public shade trees abut homeowners and not commercial properties.
Mimi, I'm just going to show the part. Can you remind me where this is?
Oh, boy.
I know. I'm just, because I think it's important to read it for context.
It is under D jurisdiction 5.
So it's part 2.
Yes.
I mean, I guess in principle, I agree with the way it's written. I was just trying to think of a way to help, grease the skids, so to speak, but I guess sometimes you got to go with your heart. So yeah, maybe just leave it.
And Mimi, you're saying that it's 5, number 2, that's the getting pushback, and 1 and 3 are people aren't questioning that.
Well, 3 would probably be similar, although it doesn't mention the strip line specifically.
Why don't we, if you're all done, we'll move on to the public, see if we can get any comments. If the board has said what they want to say at this time. Anyone from the public, questions, comments in
Tim
general,
Flynn?
or?
Hi, thank you. This is Tim Fling, 18 Main Street. I had a question about the presentation and just the bylaw in general. It said that there's nothing further than Mass General Law, but if it's not further than Mass General Law, why would we need to further enhance that with a bylaw within the town? I'm not really familiar with the conversation, so I just wouldn't mind if somebody had a concise answer to that.
Because currently we do not have a process. The law is not being consistently followed or enforced. So this would give definitions to some terms that are raised under Mass General Law but are not defined, and lay out a process in which the town can comply with the law.
So essentially just bring it closer to home so that way it can be better enforced.
Absolutely, yes.
Okay, thank you.
And also, didn't your research find virtually all of the surrounding towns and many towns throughout Massachusetts have what we're proposing, and that we're really kind of behind the other towns in not having this? Is that correct, Mimi?
Yes, many other towns have similar bylaws. A lot go even further and protect tree canopies in general, not just public shade trees. And the state has a database that has several sample bylaws, because so many other towns have it.
Does that answer your question, Tim?
Yep, that gives me a pretty good idea of why it's being proposed. My general knowledge was that if it's in a Mass General Law, we don't need a bylaw. So I thought it was a redundant effort since it's already legally a law. So I just wanted to kind of further understand why we would pursue a bylaw if it's actually covered by the town. But the answer that was given explains why we would be interested in this.
Thank you, Tim. I'm going to steal your line, bring it closer to home.
Happy to help.
Anyone else from the public?
Frederica?
Go ahead.
Hi, Freddie Gillespie speaking as a citizen. I'd like to thank the planning board for the work on this, and particularly Mimi, who I believe has spent a ton of time, Marnie's help, but thank you for bringing this forward. And as for the drip line versus the chainsaws, that comment, I think often trees aren't looking as well when the chainsaws come. And one of the reasons they start to not look well is because, you know, the root system has been damaged by interference with the root line, even if they're a healthy tree. So sort of like a first step to killing a tree is interfering there. So it may be the chainsaw you see come faster to kill the tree, but I would say the chainsaw often comes because of the drip line damage. And I think it's valid to keep it in. And I would hope, and not hope, I believe there's enough people in this town that will support the drip line. I think you make a good case for, you know, have good examples for why that's important if you're asked. But I believe people will, especially when towns are getting grants to spend tens and tens and tens of thousands of dollars to plant trees, and we already have them, you know. So it's a big, you know, it's an important issue with the upcoming change in our climate and, you know, all the benefits you spoke of. So thank you very much for working on it. I'll make sure myself and I'll bring all my friends to support it. I have a couple.
Anyone else?
Bill Putri?
On this. My only concern that we might want to look at is related to the drip line. We have a significant amount of very small lots in this town that tend to be in some of the older areas. So the lots are small to start with. They're older lots typically based on, you know, the residential C being smaller lots to start with. And when you start with setbacks and the like, and the potential for issues related to cesspools being replaced and anything else on a small lot, I just get very concerned that we're really going to infringe upon the property rights of the owners, specific, you know, primarily in those areas.
So there's not a prohibition bill, it just requires a permit.
Right. I can just see that I totally understand. I can just see that that's where where you may find some pushback. That's the only reason for my comment.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I don't see anybody else.
So, Mimi, if you're all set, then we'd just continue the public hearing to May 5th.
Isn't it May 4th?
May 4th. Is that the first night of town meeting is May 4th? That's a Wednesday night?
Yes.
So that would be May 4th. And town meeting usually starts at what, 7?
Yes. Oh, and I forgot one thing from the select board advisory joint meeting, the planning board, who there was a quorum of myself, Mr. Morris and Ms. Houlihan, agreed to amend the bylaw to have the planning board review regulations and review and accept regulations and fines. Forgot to mention that.
So that would be.
So there
an
will be
amendment.
one amendment.
Okay. I see we're getting some notes here. This town meeting starts at 6:30. Appreciate that from Sam and Tim. So did the advisory vote on this article at their joint meeting?
No,
Did the selectmen?
not as far as I know.
If there's nothing else, then we would continue this public hearing to what, 5:45, 5:30 on the 4th.
So moved.
Seconded.
So is it 5:30?
5:30.
Motion's been made to continue the public hearing for Article 27 to May 4th at 5:30. Location would be Algonquin Regional High School. And we would be notified or notify the public which room or area we would be in the school or the parking lot. Any questions or comments? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Very good. See you on the 4th. Next item on the agenda is a continued public hearing for a proposed warrant article, scenic roads, continued from March 28th and April 11th. This is Article 28. Scenic roads bylaw. Go ahead, Marnie. The town, the scenic road state law is Chapter 40, Section 15C. And that's been around for a while. And many of the towns in the Commonwealth have designated scenic roads. And of course, upon the recommendation or request of the Planning Board, Conservation Commission, or Historical Commission of any city or town, such city or town may designate any road in said city or town a scenic road. If you look in the Scenic Road Act, you will see no definition for scenic road. The term scenic is not defined in the act. So what's happened, the Scenic Road Act covers not just trees, but also the town's jurisdiction over stone walls. And these are trees and the stone walls in the public way. Very similar to what we just went through with the, can you go back a second, Mimi, Marnie? So what the town did back in the 1970s at 3 town meetings was to designate scenic roads. And in 1974, there was a handful of roads designated at that town meeting. The following year, a few more roads. And then at the 1978 town meeting, the town designated all remaining public ways in existence as of that town meeting vote. And since then, no scenic roads. Since then, 68 public ways have been accepted by the town, built and accepted by the town. And yet none of them since 1978, since they were built, have been recommended for the scenic road designation. And that's what we're planning to do at this town meeting. The act allows the town to create guidelines for what constitutes a scenic road. Town of Southborough does not have such guidelines, but could be the next step in this process of managing the town's public trees. And as I said at the beginning, out of sequence was that these are the three town entities that may designate or recommend the designation of roads as being scenic. And in this case, in 2022, it's the planning board. Again, unlike the Public Shade Tree Act under Chapter 87, Chapter 40, Section 15C, the scenic road designation protects not just the trees, but also the stone walls. But they have to be within the town's right of way. And it does not protect trees and stone walls that are solely on private property, as we can see. So how does it happen? There is a, after a road has been designated as a scenic road, any repair, maintenance, reconstruction, or paving work done with respect thereto shall not involve or include cutting or removal of trees, or the tearing down or destruction of stone walls, without consent of the planning board, but only after a public hearing. And there's rules for advertising such a public hearing within the act. And then if the public hearing is held under provision of the Scenic Road Act, as well as Chapter 87, then prior to the cutting or removal of a tree, such hearings shall be consolidated into a single public hearing. And we're actually going to have one of those later on in our agenda tonight. The law also allows the city or town to create an ordinance or a bylaw that establishes a violation of the Scenic Road Act. We're not doing that at this point. All we're doing with this warrant article is to add more roads to our list of scenic roads. And based on what we have now, all of the 175 town public ways are protected by Chapter 87. And we would be adding under the Scenic Road Act and bringing the number to a total of 107 town public ways. 68 town ways to the lists of the town scenic roads. And this is printed in the warrant. These are the 68 town public ways the town has accepted since 1978. And there's one road here that was a dead end, Orchard Road, and it was extended. It was created in 1992 and then further extended in 2008. We had a question, I think during the advisory meeting, where enforcement was questioned. Who's going to enforce this? And in my research with several other towns, it's very similar to the way it works in this town, which is the enforcement authority is the planning board. However, who's the one that does the inspections? Who goes out and calls to the planning board, the DPW's attention that a scenic road violation is occurring? Somebody's tearing down or stealing stones from historic stone walls. Somebody's cutting down a tree that's in the public way without a public hearing. And consistently with the towns that I've talked with, it's pretty much the same way it is in across the state and in our town, which is mostly the neighbors. If they see something like that happen, they make a phone call. And I think that just recently happened over this past weekend on another street. The police would notice things like that, the DPW and their constant traveling of the town ways. Even the building inspector in some towns is part of the authority to bring scenic road violations to justice. So it seems to be the type of thing that there's no scenic road police other than all of us. And it seems to work in other towns, especially towns that really care about it and that have a teamwork. And that's what I've seen in discussing this with other towns. There's a really good relationship and a teamwork and a framework through which the different entities in the town work together to protect the valuable resource of the trees and the stone walls. Why do we want to add more streets to the scenic road list? First of all, it adds an additional administrative burden to the planning board. But in discussions with the planning board, it's welcomed. It's the type of thing that a quality town should be willing to take on to protect trees on all the streets. And why are we designating all of the streets? Very few towns are doing it that way. And our position is that if we put together a stronger framework with this scenic road addition and also the Article 27 that we just heard about, that we can create a much stronger network of managing the town's trees. Any questions or comments?
Great presentation, great layout. Looks good. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mrs. Luttrell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Very nice presentation. Thank you, Marnie. I forgot to thank you for mine and for that one. Very nice. And I would just add that having more scenic roads and having the tree warden and the planning board working together promotes that collaboration that you were talking about that other towns have with many entities working together. And it also increases the transparency when there are tree removal hearings. Thank you.
Yeah, one of the feedbacks I received from a local tree warden was, my question was, if the scenic road overseers disagree, if the planning board doesn't agree with the tree warden, or in some towns it includes the members of the Board of Selectmen, or even the building commissioner in some towns. And if there's disagreement among those parties, how does it get resolved? And I consistently heard that it gets resolved because people are trying to all pull in the same direction. And usually they find a resolution that doesn't make everyone happy, because everyone can't get their own way, but it does get resolved. It's not like there's attorneys and lawsuits and court cases. It gets worked out. And that's the way it's been in this town for a long time, and needs to be brought back in a better format and a more structured management procedure. Everyone pulling in the same direction to the best of our ability. And we all know that both Scenic Road Act and Chapter 87 give great authority to the tree warden when it comes to trees that are dead or dangerous. And hearings don't need to be held. The tree warden has that authority. People should be comforted by that they don't have to go through a big bureaucracy to have a dead or dangerous tree removed. Any other questions or comments? Anyone from the public?
Frederica or Freddie Gillespie? Freddie?
Go ahead, Freddie.
Hi, everyone. I'm Freddie speaking as a citizen. Thank you for this other bylaw that seems to be really something the town should celebrate that you're putting forth. And I had a question about the scenic bylaw. Does it protect, you're talking about trees, but it protects the stone walls, but only if it's the scenic road, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, just because why I think this is well needed on other streets is within the last year or so, Nat Grid went down Route 85, putting in some sort of, I don't know, they dug up the area next to the sidewalk and just all the old stone wall was just toppled over and thrown everywhere. And it's still a mess now. And there was no one to call to ensure that that got replaced when they were done. And I just looked the other day and it's still an old historic stone wall, just all dismantled. So at least this would have somebody who would be responsible if it were not Route 85, because that's a numbered route, right? So that can't be included. So that could have happened on a route that another road, and now you'll have a format to ensure that that can't happen, right?
That's correct. But if you wake up on a non-scenic road and there's a bunch of stones that have been taken, I know in the 80s and the 90s when there was a lot of subdivisions being built in Southborough, we had issues, not everywhere, but it was noted that portions of stone walls were disappearing, and the landscapers were able to take these field stones and install them who knows where, and get big money for a historic looking stone wall in somebody's yard. This would allow the town to seek either a penalty, a fine, or as I heard from another town recently, that the homeowner took down the stone wall and the stones disappeared. And the tree warden, I'm sorry, the planning board representative went there and said, you know, you took down these stones, they disappeared. You have to make restitution. And the homeowner, of course, said they didn't know anything about the Scenic Road Act and they didn't know that they were breaking the rules. So in that case, it was negotiated, and the homeowner made a contribution to that town's tree fund, and it was not small money. It was something that the town had enough leverage to resolve it without any, I guess, criminal action. There's different ways of doing it, but this certainly gives the town another tool to manage not just the trees, but the historic stone walls.
So thank you. But just back to my example, this won't help in the situation on Route 85 where they totally took down a whole section of the stone wall. Nothing to be done there? Is there, or,
There may be, but not under the scenic road jurisdiction, which excludes numbered roads, numbered highways that are not totally within the town. If Route 85 started somewhere in the town and
Yeah.
ended somewhere else in the town, then you could make Route 85 a scenic road. But because it extends beyond the town's borders, it's excluded from the act.
well, thank you for doing it for the roads that aren't numbered roads, because I can see this as a potential. It's not always someone meaning to do it, but it could be, an infrastructure type situation too. Someone going in with telephone or power lines, just wiping out historic stone walls. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mills.
I'd like to make a motion, we continue the scenic road. Oh, wait, which one are we on now? Yeah, the scenic road tree removal. Oh, no. The proposed warrant article for scenic roads continued public hearing to May 4th, 2022 at 5:35 p.m.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is a public hearing for scenic road tree removal at the intersection of Deerfoot and Flag Road intersection. Do you, Colleen, I forgot to ask you this earlier. Is there a public hearing notice that you can read?
Yes, I have it. So the public hearing notice for tree removal hearing, the Southborough tree warden, under the requirements of Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 87, Section 3, cutting of public shade trees, hearing damages, and the Southborough Planning Board, under the requirements of MGL 40, Section 15C, scenic roads designations, will conduct a public hearing on Monday, April 25th, 2022 at 7:30 p.m. in a virtual meeting to discuss the removal of 2 trees located at the intersection of Deerfoot and Flag Roads. The trees range in size from 14-inch maple and a 24-inch hickory. Each tree is posted. The meeting may be viewed or listened by the public at the following link. The application can be viewed in person at the Planning Board office at the Townhouse 17 Common Street, Southborough, Mass. Any person wishing to hear the proposed plan should appear at the time and place designated. Objection to the proposal. The proposed removals may be made in writing prior to or at the hearing. Christopher Leroy, Tree Warden.
Thank you. Mr. Leroy, you're here with us tonight. Welcome.
Thank you to the board. I appreciate it.
So did you have a presentation, Chris?
I do. You're gonna have to bear with me because this is the first joint hearing I've ever done, and it's the first Zoom meeting I've ever been on. So I'm gonna do my best. What I thought I could do was just say my part and kind of go through what I would normally do when we would do a tree hearing on site, or in the past, we've done them at the DPW outside during COVID, and sort of do what I would do it the same way, just here tonight. If that sounds okay.
Yeah, let's try it. We haven't done one of these in a while either, but so far this is consistent with the ones that we used to do several years ago.
Okay. So if you'd like me to begin, I will. So at 9:06, the tree warden's portion of the hearing begins. The first tree, tag number 76, the 14-inch maple, is currently healthy. But my recommendation, due to the project that was had me post the trees, that tree would not survive construction. So my recommendation is for removal. Tag number 77, the 24-inch hickory shade tree, is also currently healthy, but along with the plan in front of me, that also would not survive construction. So my recommendation is for removal. And I have received multiple written requests opposing these removals. Therefore, my determinations tonight will be sent to the select board for review and appeal. And the last thing I'd like to recommend is that we replant at least 2 trees on that site once the project is complete. And that's my part.
That's your part so far.
Yes.
Okay. So let's get the plan of the new layout of the intersection that identifies, it shows the new layout and it has the little notes on it pointing to the place where those 2 trees are.
Yes.
That's the one. So if you look at the 2 clouds in the middle of the one, it says Rem tree, and that's pointing to the tree that's in the existing island, the maple. And then the lower cloud says Rem tree, which is removed tree, which is just to the right of the edge of that sidewalk that goes down to the schools. And you'll also, I think the public hearing notice identified, the notice that Colleen read identified the tree as a hickory. And the notice that's actually tapped onto the tree identifies it as an elm. And I happen to live nearby there, so I looked at it today and sure looks like a hickory to me.
Right.
So go ahead, Chris.
I apologize, Mr. Chairman. That's a clerical error by myself when we were getting the postings together.
Okay, yeah, we figured that there was a mix-up somewhere, but we want to make sure that we can proceed legally with the tree being identified as 2 different types of tree. But we're going to proceed as far as we can tonight on this and see how the board and the public want to deal with this. This is not uncharted territory, although in the previous tree hearings that I've been involved in many years ago, we never had a situation where the public hearing notice differed from the notice on the tree. And when it comes to cutting the tree down, it probably doesn't matter whether it's an elm or an oak or a hickory, although the elm trees it is the state tree. But as you said, this was a typo, a clerical error, that the tree really is a hickory tree. So I guess what I'll do is open it up to the planning board and get the planning board's questions and comments. You might want to leave that up, Marnie, so that people can talk to it. I know I had some questions about the actual layout. I know it's from 2016. And like I said, I live nearby, and I know there was some discussion about realigning that intersection, but this package that we just got on this is the first time I've seen the actual layout. I wasn't aware of any hearings or anything. So we'll get into that. Let me open it up to the board. Mr. Mills, any questions, comments?
Well, I think it, other than the clerical error with the what type of tree is, I think I'm good. Thank you.
Mr. Stein?
So the construction in question is a town project, is it not?
Hi, this is Greg Russell with VHB.
Oh, that's right, Greg. I saw your name there. I should have called on you also. You're with VHB.
Yep.
Go ahead.
No problem. Yes, this is a town-funded project using Chapter 90 funds, if I recall correctly. This project was presented at a Public Works Planning Board meeting on June 11th, 2018. Prior to the pandemic, just for clarity. Essentially with this, I believe with the same layout. But this project was kind of born out of a safety study that was commissioned by the town, related to a residential development that everyone's favorite residential development up Flag Road. And as a result of some concerns about that development, the town issued it or commissioned a safety study that we did not do. And this was the one of the recommendations that came out of that study was improvements to this intersection, more or less in this fashion. So slightly, the alignment I believe is shifted slightly to the north in the study, but that's the general background.
Has any of the construction started already?
In this area, no.
Okay, so I guess one thing that occurs to me is what will you do if the planning board decides that these trees cannot be removed? How will you proceed?
We'll have to go back and look. This was included in a contract. This was included in a contract and was awarded to a contractor. We'd have to go back to the consult with DPW and town council about how to move forward with that.
So there's no contingency plan at this time. You'd have to kind of reevaluate. You have to actually, in effect, go back to the drawing board.
Yeah, I mean, there's things you could, yeah, I mean, there's things we could potentially do to modify things. We could remove we'd have to remove, I guess one, would be removing the sidewalk. One would be removing, and then in addition to that, removing the crosswalk, because you cannot have a crosswalk without an ADA compliant landing. So the existing crosswalk is not ADA compliant that's there now. In order to, for the tree and the island to do, something with this, I'm still not entirely sure it would survive the construction.
I guess I'm okay. Let's say we condition for you guys to, absorb the cost of replanting elsewhere with additional trees. Is that your preference?
That would be
kind of
yeah.
trying to get a sense of what you're
I mean, we're willing to, the DPW is willing to plant trees here. One thing just to keep in mind, in this location is there will still be existing town infrastructure in the portion of Flag Road that's being planted. You know, the water lines are still under that section of the road. So under the top cloud there, the water lines kind of run up the cloud to the top. Yeah, so the water lines still run in that area, so you just have to be careful with what we do plant and where we plant it. But the intent would be to plant something there. The DPW is more than happy to plant elsewhere, whether it's on other scenic roads or elsewhere in town.
Okay. I mean, at the moment, to be honest, I'm leaning toward, I hate to say it, I'm leaning toward keeping the trees in place and not going the route of replanting at this moment. But I'm still open to hearing my fellow board members and further comments.
I guess, one thing a couple of things I would say with the, with the crossing where it is, and then, like I said, this came out of a safety study where there were concerns about speeds going up Flag Road. One of the reasons this geometry was selected is that it really only serves buses and your smaller delivery trucks. Trailer trucks aren't able to make this turn, which goes back to there was a previous request about trucks on Flag Road, or concern about trucks on Flag Road. So that was part of that, and that in the hopes that would kind of treat that as well. What was noted in the safety study is that the majority of crashes on Deerfoot Road and Flag Road are related to roadside objects, whether it be it trees, walls, mailboxes. And it's just due to a lack of available clear zone, which is typical on a scenic road. Where the path comes out currently and where the road kind of bends, as you come south on Deerfoot Road, there's limited sight distance, especially for someone, if someone is stopped at the existing current stop bar at on Deerfoot Road, and someone's coming that way, someone's going, and the pedestrian is coming out, there's limited sight distance through the car, through the trees. There's a lot of stuff going on at that intersection, which is kind of what was one of the concerns originally. So we kind of tried to resolve that with minimal impact to private property. The easiest way to kind of get away from, the other way to get away from the trees is to, bend the road more, but then you're impacting, private property, which we didn't want to do.
And I appreciate your clarification on those points. Thank you. I'm still open to hearing more, and I haven't made a final decision yet, but I just kind of wanted to let you know where I was at.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mrs. Luttrell.
Thank you. Was the hearing notice posted on the website anywhere?
I'm going to be perfectly honest. I don't know. The minutes are online. That's all. That's what I can tell you at the moment.
No, I mean, this hearing notice, I looked under hearings and I looked at the DPW website and I couldn't find it.
That'd be a question for Chris.
Okay. Now that, the hickory tree, is that in a sidewalk? Or is it within the right of way there?
Hickory tree, it's the hickory tree, the roadway. So with the current alignment, the hickory tree, always portion of it will be in the roadway. And then the other portion would have been in the sidewalk. The intent was to bring the path up, carry the sidewalk to the north, and then cross once. So on the sidewalk on the path that's coming up from the school, the path comes up and would turn to the north to the new crosswalk. Would it be helpful if I shared mine?
Sure.
I don't think I'm a presenter. But
I'm sharing a picture right now.
yeah. So.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. So the path comes up, and you would, if you were walking up the path towards the road, you would take a right.
Okay, so that tree that I'm looking at would be in the middle of the sidewalk that goes up to the crosswalk?
Yes. And part of this is, nobody likes to cross twice, and kids like to do it less. So you have the fewer crosswalks you can have, the more likely they're actually going to get used. So the idea would be to have a single crossing from the school side to the Flag Road side. There is the potential you could take a left and send the sidewalk to the left, and then cross onto the other side, and then do a second crossing across the new leg. But then that would also potentially impact there are three other trees on that side, including 15-inch cherry, 15-inch hickory. You can see right on the other side of the crosswalk there. Those are a little further set back from the roadway, so they pose less of a danger to, as a roadside hazard, I guess, if you want to say that. And we'd also, from a design standpoint, when you have a three-legged intersection, especially if it's unsignalized, if you're taking a right out of the intersection, you're looking to the left over your shoulder to see if you have a clear gap to turn out of, and hence you don't always look back to the right to see if someone is crossing in front of you as you turn. Whereas if the crosswalk is in front of you as you're taking a left, you're more apt to see a pedestrian crossing across your face. Hence kind of the judgment that was used to put the crosswalk where it is, or where it's proposed.
Okay, and this is being done for safety reasons, although the safety report showed all the accidents on the road. I think maybe one of them was anywhere near this intersection.
That was the recommendation that came out of the safety report, was to realign this intersection. I think they felt that would reduce speeds on Flag Road, because you don't have this kind of the sweeping right turn. Again, it would should reduce truck traffic on Flag Road by making it, trucks aren't able to, won't be able to just make that basically easy turn coming from Main Street, right onto Flag Road and continue on.
So they can't make that turn from Deerfoot onto Flag?
Not, I mean, a smaller trucks can, a WB 67, which is your standard current day trailer truck, would have a difficult time doing it. I'm not going to say they can't or they wouldn't do it, but it would be they'd be much less likely to.
So is the truck traffic coming from Main Street to Flag or from Route 9?
From my understanding, it seems to be coming from Main Street. But either way, in the same way, if they were coming from Route 9, they'd have a difficult time making this turn. Again, they could do it, but not easy. Yeah, this was designed for buses and fire trucks and your standard delivery trucks.
Okay. So I read the safety report and all the accidents are on further up on Flag. So I don't know what this intersection reworking would do to alleviate that issue. But I wish there was some way to rework this to at least save one of the trees, like the bigger.
Yeah, I mean,
hickory tree.
I think the issue, unfortunately, I've been out there a number of times. As you can see on the plan, that unfortunately the road is not centered in the town's right of way. Now that leaves, that could be a benefit. You have space to move the road to the west. The problem with doing that, and we did look at this, was, you have the utility poles on that side, which means the utility poles get moved back, the wires get moved back, and there are 3 other larger trees up there.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Houlihan.
Thank you. So I live on Clifford. Clifford moves into Deerfoot, and so I've lived at this intersection for 20 years. And I think what happened in 2016 is that the select board met with town residents. I was there, and they agreed to do a comprehensive traffic study report, which was not done. What was done is the study, the flag safety study, and there was a recommendation by Tool Design Group where they do actually preserve all the trees. And so when I saw the plans from the DPW, it doesn't actually resemble this at all. And I think that the intent for the safety study was because of the concern of Park Central. That, for the time being, I guess we have a few more days until an appeal process goes through, but for the time being is quiet. And I think it would basically try to accommodate 600 to 1,000 more trails of traffic coming through with cars. And I don't think that the town is actually in need of changing this intersection at this time, personally. This is not where the incidents have happened. Mimi, you're right. In the safety study that was done, it was much farther south towards the Route 9 entrance. And I think the intent here is that the town residents, we have received 3 letters. I don't know if Mr. Leroy has received more, from Jonas Linden, Grant Farrington, and Deb Demuria. They have kind of recognized that the select board had agreed to do a comprehensive traffic study before making any kind of accommodations to the road it's not clear that this intersection really needed to be changed to accommodate any safety issues. I think my greatest concern around the proposal that was placed here is that you make Deerfoot basically a runway road. There's no stop signs. It becomes basically a freestanding way, and you have a T intersection. So you make a car do a hard stop, and then you might have a kid in the crosswalk. You do a hard stop, you take a left, and bang, you have to stop again for the kid. So I don't actually think this is the safest design. Again, I'm not a traffic safety or pedestrian safety, but it just does not seem all that safe. So for these reasons, I don't support taking 2 trees down when there was this, a mock-up made prior that preserves the island, preserves the scenic nature of the road, and make sure that we do not destroy a 14-inch maple and a 24-inch hickory.
The tree that's in the island that we're talking about, I believe does get removed as part of this plan. That's up on the screen.
The island that's the tree right there.
No, that's a proposed tree. The island, the tree that we're talking about would be around where the stop bar is on Deerfoot or on Flag Road.
But you're not even keeping the island. You're making it like a true T. It becomes like a major intersection on a scenic country road. And I don't think we need to take down 2 beautiful trees that are healthy to accommodate traffic that is not happening.
Understood. I just wanted to point out that they're not preserving. They weren't preserving the island in they weren't preserving the existing island. That's all it was.
That's all I had to say, Mr. Morris.
Thank you. Going back to a question earlier, I live on Deerfoot between this intersection and Main Street. And I can tell you, the question was about where the trucks are coming from and most of the traffic. From where we live, we consistently see every day, mostly weekdays, are vehicles with Rhode Island and Connecticut plates and trucks coming from Main Street, tractor trailers coming from Main Street. And we know the GPS is sending them from Route 30 up Deerfoot Road, down Flag Road to get onto 495 or Route 9 West. And I think the question was, or the comment, and I think I agree with it, which is the tractor trailers will have a hard time making this turn, but they will. And they'll be driving over the neighbor's front lawn, just the same as when they're, coming out of the Trotter School driveway, they run over the bushes in front of our house. If they can't make the turn, the only thing that'll stop them from making the turn is either a stone wall or a tree. And they'll probably hit those two. So yes, they're coming from, and we've talked to the different people that done it. We've had opportunities to question them, and they tell us the GPS sends them that way.
Yeah, and we are looking at the truck routing, through town and ways to do that, to look into that. So, as on top of this, that is.
So let's open this up to the public. Any questions or comments from the public?
Debbie DeMoria.
Good evening, Deb.
Hi there, Debbie DeMuria, 58 Flag Road, a member of the ZBA, but I'm just speaking as a resident of Flag Road tonight. I just wanted to set the record straight that trees actually slow people down. There's been a lot of studies that show that if, for a scenic road, an old country road that has a lot of trees, people actually drive slower than roads that are clear cut, like runway type situations. So I think that we have this kind of impression that trees are in the way and we need to increase the sight line, for safety or something like that. But people do slow down because of trees. But I just wanted to take a step back. I sent you a letter. This is probably one of the oldest roads in Southborough. I pulled up the maps from the Southborough Historic Society, and I found this intersection, Deerfoot flag in I think the 1931 and the 1831 and 1854 map. And remember that this is a historic site because the original, one of the original, I think it was 5 schools, the Flag Road School was right here at this intersection. Now in 200 years, I don't think there's been that many accidents, but recently there have been, some mishaps with these tractor trailer trucks. So fast forward to, past Park Central and this sort of thing where we were anticipating a lot of traffic on the road. Maybe we're not going to have that traffic now, but the residents did bring a warrant article to 221 to the 2021 town meeting to exclude trucks from Flag Road because we are seeing an increase in the number of trucks. So, and it did pass. I've done a little research on this and looked at other towns, and I've talked to other towns. And the way towns handle this is through their Public Works Planning Board or their Public Works Advisory Board, and they take a look at this. Now, Flag Road and Deerfoot Road are collector roads. And so typically you don't have you're not qualified. They don't qualify as for truck exclusion, but many towns have an exclusion to the exclusion. And that is if that road serves a public school. And Flag, as we know, feeds into Deerfoot and it serves our public school. We have Trotter School. We've got school children. Therefore, it should qualify for truck exclusion. So, we, I think as neighbors are very interested in safety of our children. We want, crosswalks and sidewalks and all that, that's protection for our children who are walking to school, walking home from school. But we don't want the trucks. So what I think we need to do here really is think about that the safety study that we're referring to goes back to 2016 and we're in 2022 and a lot has happened in those years. I understand there's a desire to know, well, what happens if you exclude the trucks. So selectmen are working through that because obviously it could push trucks down other roads and that would be undesirable. But there's a school on this road and this road qualifies for truck exclusion. And so that's sort of the area that I would like to go in. I don't think personally that there's any problem with this intersection. It stood the test of time for 200 years. But we really need to get these trucks off the road for the safety of our children. And also just the fact that there's a lot of, people walking, biking, running, walking their dogs. But this is an example of a problem that is not. This is not a problem intersection. There is no safety problem here at this intersection. So I would like to refer this back to the select board. Maybe they'll be speaking about it tomorrow. I would personally like to see away with this project and keep everything as is. And just finally, I think we really, as a town, have painfully seen the number of healthy live trees that are taken down for public, projects. This especially that doesn't need to get done because there's no safety risk. I would say, it's really unacceptable to be taking down live trees just for public projects. So that's my opinion. I appreciate you listening tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Aaron Wheatley?
I'm muted now. Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, hi. This is Erin Wheatley. I'm from 22 Clifford Street, Clifford Road, which is one of the streets that Deerfoot basically kind of feeds into, depending on which way you're driving on the road. And I've been a resident of this town for almost 25 years. And I just want to really echo Marnie's comments and really Debbie's comments around this intersection being a non-issue. I haven't heard of really a single accident in that intersection since I've lived here. Both my kids went to Neary and Trottier. They walked to school as well. And I think all of us know that most of the kids don't take that path down to the school. They're actually on the road all the way over to the school. So many of them aren't crossing over till they get to the front of Trottier and then crossing over at that point. When I'm driving in the afternoon and they're walking home, there's kids on both sides of the road. It doesn't seem like there's a true pattern of how these kids come in and out of the school. I think, to me, my concern is more, why is this really being done? And I felt strongly that this traffic study this study was put in place because of Park Central, in a preparation for this, which many of us in the town were not supportive of. Changes were being made, even putting the line down Flag Road, that really signaled to the residents of the neighborhood that the town was going to go through with Park Central regardless of what we thought. And I think this intersection is another example of that. And I'm very concerned about it. I don't see it calming traffic. One thing that would calm traffic is actually having the police pull people over for speeding. That would be an excellent way to calm the traffic in the area. Other than that, making it into a T, and then before you know it, it's going to have a stoplight there, and it's going to become a major intersection. These roads are scenic country roads. They're not designed for that purpose. And I think it's really important for the residents to stand up and protect the scenic, beautiful nature of the neighborhoods that we live in, including protecting the trees as well. Thank you.
Erin,
Yes.
When Debbie signed off a minute ago, she was recommending that this get bounced back to the selectmen before any action is taken. Do you have a feeling relative to that, or another suggestion?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that Marnie brought up was the other drawing. There's another plan from Tool Design Group. Why isn't that something that we can consider? I just felt like the person who was speaking, and I'm sorry, I don't know his name, around this intersection, it just doesn't make sense to me that doing all this work and modifying this intersection's going to help anything, especially since most of the accidents are on Flag Road, and partially because it is a very narrow scenic road, which is meant to be driven slowly. I do think it should be bounced back, and I think that there should be a reconsideration. Do we even need to do this project? Because if you ask me, there's plenty of other road work that could be done in the town of Southborough before we need to modify this intersection.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
I don't see
Anyone
anybody else
from the
with their hand
public?
up. Nope.
So no one else, Colleen?
No, I don't see anybody.
Let's go back to the board. Well, let's go back to Chris. Chris, I think you made your point clearly that based on the design, which is apparently approved, or at least approved by the Public Works Planning Board. And I think you said it was already put out to bid, that based on that, if this is to be built, then your recommendation is to take down the trees.
Yes, the plan as I have it in front of me, the one that we saw, proposed plan, both trees I did recommend to take down, to go ahead with that plan, as is.
So if this gets put back in front of the selectmen for another consideration, that may change the need to take the trees down, or at least one of them or both of them. So I'll just say tonight, our action tonight is to, I believe it would be to approve the removal of both trees, approve the removal of one or the other, disapprove the removal of any trees, or continue the hearing with no action to a near future date, with maybe the possibility of the selectmen taking another look at this and finding a way to maybe definitively say this is it or nothing, or this is it, we're going to do this, and force the board to make a decision. So I think those are our options tonight, and I'll open it up back to the board as to what we want to do tonight. It is getting late and we still have a bunch of other stuff on the agenda. Mr. Mills.
I'd be in favor of putting it back to the selectmen to take a second look at it, and then keeping the public hearing open once we get their feedback. Thank you.
Mr. Stein?
Not to remove the trees. The trees stay.
So do you feel that that should be a vote taken tonight?
Yes.
Mrs. Luttrell?
Yeah, I'm not convinced of the necessity for this project, so I would vote to not remove the trees tonight.
Mrs. Houlihan?
I echo Mr. Stein and Mrs. Luttrell. I would vote to not remove these trees.
So if that vote is taken and it carries, then does that essentially either kill the project or force it to be redesigned to save the trees? Is that your intent? Yes, yeah, Marty.
So my intent is that I don't think this road work needs to be done. So I think by forcing it to say no trees are removed, we force it back to the select board to reevaluate why this work is even being proposed.
Okay. I just want to make sure we're sending the right message if that vote carries, that that the planning board has its eyes open and is not opposed to removing public trees in the public way, except on a case-by-case basis. And if what we're finding is if they're healthy trees, the project isn't essential, then the trees shouldn't be cut down. That seems to be what I'm hearing.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Mills,
just a question on the process, right? So if we vote the trees can't get taken down, could the selectmen still override it and go ahead and do it? Because I thought that was one thing that was brought up, that there could be a appeal of, and who would see that appeal? That's why I'm saying you should go back to the selectmen and, be reevaluated. Is this still needed before we take a vote?
If I could just add my section of the vote of my hearing, because of the letters I received from residents, it's going to get sent to the selectmen for review and appeal.
An
and
appeal,
Chris, that's because you're voting to remove the trees, which conflicts with what you've heard from the neighbors, and therefore it automatically gets bumped to the selectmen for your
Yes.
vote?
That's my understanding, yes.
That's correct.
If there's any opposition, it goes through an appeal process with the board of select board
For your vote?
for my section of the hearing, yes.
Yeah.
The tree warden's hearing.
Yeah, I'm not aware of the selectmen being able to nullify the planning board's vote relative to these trees. Otherwise, why would we have the hearing?
okay.
So, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah, just
I mean, this isn't, the agenda item is for a specific application for removal of very specific trees. So I don't think we're sending any kind of broad statement that we're opposed to tree removal when it's appropriate. I'm only wanting to vote on the application that's part of this agenda item. And I am looking at an application, so I believe the motion would be to reject the application for a scenic road stone wall for tree removal for the trees at the intersection of Deerfoot and Flag Roads.
Does anybody disagree with that?
No.
Well, in that case, it's probably appropriate to ask for a motion to continue the public hearing without a vote. If that motion is made and seconded, we would vote on that. If no motion is made, then we'd move on to a motion to deal with the trees. And if that gets seconded, then there'd be a vote. Is there any vote to continue the hearing without a vote tonight? In that case, hearing none, we would entertain a motion to address the application by voting tonight. Mr. Mills,
Chairman, I make a motion that the planning board deny the removal of the public trees and the stone walls at Deerfoot and Flag Road intersection.
Second.
did I miss something? Is there a stone wall portion of this?
Oh, stone wall too. Sorry. I was going
So
off
the-
the,
There's no stone wall.
No.
oh, there is? Okay. Sorry, the removal of the public trees at Deerfoot and Flag Road intersection.
That's your revised motion?
Correct.
Seconded.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? This is a motion to deny. Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
So Chris, you'll be sending your report to the selectmen,
I will.
and our, not sure if we have to submit a report or we just, what the administrative action is for us relative to our vote a minute ago. But we'll figure it out and make that happen. And hopefully, first of all, thank you for sticking around this late. It's almost 10 o'clock. Been a long night for you.
I appreciate
And
the process.
we'll get better at this, and hopefully we'll be able to streamline it and do the right thing as we're moving forward. But certainly appreciate you working with us and your part of this hearing.
I appreciate the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Okay.
All right, we'll move on to the next item in the agenda. If anybody out there is still awake, it's let's see. It's an approval not required for 26 Meadow Lane. Actually, going back to the last agenda item, we opened the public hearing and we didn't hear any more input from the public, but we did not close the public hearing.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we close the public hearing for scenic road tree removal, Deerfoot Flag Road intersection.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to close the public hearing. Is there, last chance, anyone from the public want to speak relative to this public hearing?
Oh, Debbie DeMoria would like to speak.
Go ahead.
Hi, everybody. So just one clarification. So I understand we're under an interim process right now. And I would just like to clarify, it appeared to me that decisions about public on scenic roads are made by this body, and decisions on non-scenic roads are made by the select board. So can we just clarify whether there's a possible appeal to the select board, or whether planning board has the final decision on scenic road, trees on scenic roads?
I think we just covered that, and it was our opinion that the decisions of the planning board are not appealable to the Board of Selectmen. They may be appealable to somebody else, and I know I've seen in other towns, the process is spelled out that the appeal can go to the Superior Court, similar to site plan and other things that can be appealed by against the planning board. But we're not aware at this point of any authority of the selectmen to address an appeal based on a vote of the planning board.
Thank you.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor to close the public hearing. It's been seconded. Any other questions, comments from the public? Seeing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Okay, so let's redo the vote now that the public hearing is closed. We now have had the benefit of input from the public and from the tree warden. We've asked if anybody had anything more to say. They didn't. So now it would be appropriate for us to entertain a motion to take action. Mr. Mills.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion, we deny the scenic road tree removal request at the intersection of Deerfoot and Flag Road.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? This is a motion to deny. All in favor? Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yes.
Houlihan, yes.
Okay, thank you. Now we can move on to the next item on the agenda, which is an approval not required for 26 Meadow Lane. Who's going to put that up? Marnie? And Colleen, we received this. Tell us when we received it. Give us a little bit of an overview. We just recently had seen an A&R on Meadow Lane, and this is a revised or a newer edition of that, I believe.
Yes, so since I've been here, this is the third, but I believe there was actually 4 A&Rs now. So this one was sent to us on April 19th. And it is the final A&R before they come back with a, not a subdivision, but plans. They're gonna create the lots at the next spot. And that's pretty much it, I think.
So we'll open it up to, are you there, Bill? Are you going to do this, Mr. Putri?
Zach Bemis with Engineering Design Consultants is here.
Good evening, Zach.
Can you see me?
We can hear you, and we'd like you to take us through what the changes, the revisions. Take us what this A&R is doing relative to the previous plan.
I can't hear him anymore.
You still there, Zach?
Zachary, you're muted. There he is. Oh.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes.
Excellent. Okay, it disappeared off my computer for a second, and now it seems to be back in. So yes, there are 3 plans of record, I would say, that things that have been endorsed by the planning board. The first of those would be the lot that created Lot 1A. That's down there, that's the land of McGovern. There's some parcels that were swapped, 3 different parcels in particular that were conveyed between 3 different property owners. It created Lot 1A, and that's where we left it. We then produced a second plan that was endorsed by the planning board on March 14th. That created lots 3, 4, 5, and 6. That's area that now comprises lots 3A, 4A, and 5A, as shown on this plan. That plan, although it was endorsed by the planning board, unlike the other plan, the first A&R, did not go to record at the Worcester County Registry of Deeds. This plan is intended to completely replace that plan at the registry. The other one will not be recorded. This one will be. The major changes that have happened, Lot 2B, all the way in the west, is a redivision and replaces Lot 2A of the first plan. And lots 3A, 4A, and 5A are replacements and supersedings of lots 3, 4, and 5 of that March 14th plan. And for future, where this is all going, Lot 5A will be the subject of a flexible development application in the future. So if that didn't confuse you all, I'm more than happy to walk through it again. Any other questions, I'm more than happy to answer them. Thank you.
Thank you. You said the previous plan, I think you said lot 6.
Yes, on the March 14th plan, the endorsed March 14th date plan, there is a lot 6. There is no longer a lot 6 on this plan.
Okay, because that's what I was looking for.
Lot 4 comprises most of the land of lot 6 and most of the land of lot 5 of the prior plan.
Thank you. Mr. Mills?
I know the town planners reviewed this and reviewed frontage and lot size and everything, so I have no question.
Thank you, Mr. Stein.
No questions.
Mrs. Latrell?
What's the frontage on lot 1A?
Lot 1A is 125 feet. And that's defined on the plan that was endorsed on January 24th.
Okay, so that hasn't changed at all.
It has not changed. No, that's why you'll see that lot 1A has been grayed out so that the focus is on lot 2B, 3A, 4A, and 5A on this plan. But the plan reference is there, and it's the plan that's been recorded at the Worcester Registry.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mrs. Houlihan,
No questions.
Mr. Mills.
Mr. Chairman, make a
hold on.
motion,
Hold on. Got to open up to the public if anyone's out there. Any questions or comments from the public?
Not seeing anybody.
Mr. Mills.
Chairman, make a motion, we endorse the A and R for 26 Meadow Lane as requested by the applicant.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes.
Latrell, yeah.
Houlihan, yes.
So what we'll do is the usual, when the plan is ready now for signature, Colleen, in your office.
Yes, it is.
So hopefully later this week, the board members will find their way to the planner's office to sign the plan. And when that's done, the town planner will give you a call. Who should we call? Bill, Zach?
You can call Bill.
Call Bill?
Yes, please.
Okay, you got that, Colleen?
Yes, I do.
All right, anything else on this?
That's it. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Next item on the agenda is a discussion item, 96 Mount Vickery Road, subdivision extension request. Colleen, can you set us up on this one?
This was a request that came in for an extension, and it was explained to us that it was a supply issue, just getting the work started. So he wanted to discuss with the board and see how they felt about extending it at this early date. And that would be Michael Bartolini.
Are you there, Michael?
He's here.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi.
How
Can you see me?
tonight, Michael?
Good. How are you?
Yep, good, thank you.
Yeah. So we were just we're looking for hoping to get a 1-year extension to April 15th of 2024 for Ruby Estates on Mount Vickery Road. The issue that we're running into a lot of some major supply shortage issues on certain road materials, utility materials. The biggest of which is the ductile iron. We've been checking in with our suppliers, and it's looking like we probably won't be able to get ductile iron and some other material until winter, early spring. And honestly, even when the suppliers talk about it, those are really estimates and they can't actually guarantee those times. So right now they're still filling out orders from last July. And our fear is that, you know, if we open up this project, we won't have the ability to finish it and it will stay open for an extended period of time. So the extension will essentially help us get the product in. We can then move forward with the project knowing that we have all that stuff and we complete it within a timely manner. Just leaving it open creates a lot of issues. So that's really what we're looking to do.
Okay, I'll open it up to the board. Mr. Mills,
I have no questions.
Mr. Stein.
Where does ductile iron come from?
Where it originates, I don't know. I've checked with several suppliers, and they say they're all in the same boat. It comes when it comes, and your order it gets filled when it gets filled. But I don't where it originates. I'm not 100% sure.
So they're backed up filling orders from July 2021.
I know one of my suppliers is filling orders from July of 21. I have another supplier telling me that they won't be able to get supply until spring, which is when we expire. We expire next April of 2023. The way we figured this, if we get our stuff, put it in, and they can get us for winter and spring, we can start the project then, knowing full well that we have the product. Then we don't have to open up the project, leave it open. It would prevent any kind of, runoff issues, that kind of stuff, and we can actually finish. So, I mean, that's really the idea behind it. I just think it's better for everybody involved. So
the only reason I ask these questions, anytime anybody ever asks us for an extension, I kind of just want to have it a light at the end of the tunnel, so to speak. I know you're eager to get it done too. I just want to, have it on record that there is like a realistic conclusion, which
yeah, I mean,
it sounds like there is in this case. So I'm all set.
Mrs. Luttrell?
So it doesn't expire for another year?
we expire April 15 of 2023. Our regular supplier has informed me that they probably wouldn't be able to get the product until maybe early spring of next year. That being said, even then, it would be difficult to turn around, finish at that point. So we were just trying to be proactive and get ahead of it. We know it's early, but the issue is here. So we felt it was better to start now. The other issue we have is with labor. It's difficult to schedule subcontractors, that kind of thing. So we would have to start sooner than later to make everything line up.
Okay, thank you.
Mrs. Houlihan?
Yeah, I think it's a global problem in every industry. So it's not at all surprising to me. And I'm sorry you have to deal with it. I appreciate the proactivity.
So, thank you. I discussed this with the town planner recently, and there's a concern about, well, I guess I'll ask the question. I think you've explained it very well, Michael, but what would be different if instead of on April 25th, 2022, the board votes to give you a 1-year extension? What would be the difference between us doing that now, or let's say in November or December, which is still many months before you would even need the extension?
Again, it's we'd have to start sooner than later. So it's just to get to a certain point where we have the ability to actually finish and secure the site. We just can't guarantee, again, that we'll even have the product at that point. So it's just a matter of, do we really want to open up the entire road, not knowing whether or not we're going to be able to get, the ductile iron. So I'm fairly confident we'll be able to get it, around that point. It's just, I don't know. again, there's no guarantee. And we don't want it to sit open, with stormwater and conservation, unpaved and not finished.
Well, you've heard the board, all 4 members, including myself, would be certainly sympathetic, and it would follow a long history of granting the Bartolini builders extensions. This is a discussion item on our agenda, so I'm not sure if it's appropriate to act on that request tonight. And also going back to what I said a little while ago about having a conversation with the town planner. I can't remember if she already did this or not, but there's a concern about setting a precedent. And if this were to, if we started granting extensions this far away from the deadline and set a precedent, that it would be possible in the future to start to lose control of all of this. So what I would recommend is we put this on our next agenda, not necessarily as a discussion item, but as an action item. And that would give us time to huddle with the town council to see what the pros and cons are of taking action now versus asking you to wait until later. So I think another, let's see, we're meeting again on May 4th. And then that's the pre-town planning board meeting, which right now only has 2 items on the agenda, which is the 2 warrant articles that the planning board has. So that would be the earliest we could do it, or even May 5th, have an agenda item. And certainly by May 9th, we could take action on this. Would that be okay with you? Does that sound all right?
Yeah, that would be good. The only argument I would have would be, it doesn't normally take it's just this amount of time to get product for the stuff. So I mean, just for the precedent argument, I would think you would be able to hang your hat on the fact that it doesn't usually take that amount of time to get material of this. But yeah, what is it, May 9th? Is that what we said?
That would be my recommendation to the board and to the town planner, that we would put this question to the town council, and if we get feedback in time, then we would put it on the agenda for a vote. And I can only project things to May 9th. After that, someone else will be on the planning board. But we have a plan to address this if that's okay, and I would recommend that to the board. Any objections to that? We go back to town planner, ask her to ask town council for advice on doing this at this time. Possibly doing this at this time. Okay.
Mhm.
We hear you. You explained yourself well, and it was well received. We want to make sure we protect the interest of the planning board and the town in granting these extensions. We'll get it. We'll get to a point. Anything else, Michael?
No, that was it.
Anybody else out there? Questions or comments?
Don't see any.
Do you know anything about miniature snowmobiles?
Me, no.
Okay. Okay.
What should I? Should I? I don't know. No,
No,
I don't.
I see them at your grandparents' house over the winter, they were going all over the place over there.
That may have been my cousins, not me.
Okay. All right. Well, good to see you. We'll get back to you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
All right, next item on the agenda is the discussion item, MBTA communities. Who's got this one? Colleen?
Yes, and I actually was sent an email to Lisa Braccio, is that how you say her name?
Yep.
And she told me that she was going to be discussing this with the town administrator, and they would keep everybody abreast of what they decide to do. And so far, I haven't heard anything.
So where is it now? Who has the ball?
The selectman would.
You know that it's been put in their court?
Yes, I directly talked to Lisa via email.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this?
All set.
Okay, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is planners report. Did you want to go there, Colleen?
No, not really. Just the warrant. You guys went over all of that, and so town meeting will be on the 4th and 5th, and our next meeting will be May 9th. That's really all I have to offer.
Okay. Any questions or comments on the planners report? We've already done the approval of the minutes. Our next meeting will be at 5:30 on May 4th at Algonquin. Anything else before the board? Questions, comments? Kate's still awake. This is amazing. It's great.
It's a miracle.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any discussion?
Don, great job as always.
Second that.
We are very fortunate to have had such an awesome chairman.
That's not speaking to the motion.
I apologize. I retract.
Any other discussion relative to adjourning? Hearing none, all in favor, Morris, yes?
Mills, yes.
Stein, yes?
Latrell, yeah.
Houlihan, yes.
We're adjourned. Thanks a lot.
Bye, guys.
Thank you, Marnie. Great
Thank
job on
you.
the PowerPoint.
Thanks,
Oh,
Kate.
please.
Thanks, Colleen.
Thank you. Thanks, Colleen.
Thanks, everyone.